Hey guys, welcome to my channel, ThePlanetsDreamer, and in today's video, I'm speed painting some fan art of Peter from the movie Hereditary. Along with that, I want to talk to you about the four main aspects of the movie Hereditary that had come to light for me as a viewer. Those being mental illness versus supernatural happenings, or how the mind creates reality, where true horror comes from, male vulnerability in horror movies, and similarities in other entertainment. Warning, this review contains spoilers about the movie Hereditary, so please check out the movie before you continue watching this video. Number 1. How the mind creates reality. The great thing about the film Hereditary is that it seeks not to scare you with cheap thrills or unbelievable horror scenarios, but instead nestles itself right at home in topics we all can't escape from: grief, loss, and family. I knew from the first time I saw the title and the trailer of the film, it would be playing on the fears we all have about family, and how we fear we will inevitably be no better than our broken ancestors. I personally have schizophrenia on my grandmother's side, so aspects of this film could have become hard to watch pretty fast. However, I did not expect the supernatural twist, which, personally, I thought it made the movie all that much better. Blurring the lines of what we believe to be possible, the audience is left wondering if mental illnesses mentioned in the film, such as schizophrenia and DID, really did play a role, or if that is just how society chooses to perceive unexplainable phenomena. I often listen to the podcast called Mysterious Universe, and their most recent episode covers a book called Mind to Matter, The Astonishing Science of How Your Brain Creates Material Reality, in which they explain your mind really is the thing that creates your reality, down to being able to change your own genetic makeup, as well as being able to positively or negatively affect others. People's lives are held solely in their perception, therefore, perception is ultimately reality. Hereditary does an amazing job at blending one reality into another so seamlessly, it had me reanalyzing my perception on the film several times, much as we do with our own memories. Number 2. Where true horror comes from. We see it in the classics like Night of the Living Dead and H.P. Lovecraft stories, the inability to escape our fate or control what's happening to us. The first time I saw a horror movie that truly scared me was The Ring, and then later the movie The Grudge. The reason these movies terrified me is not because the monster wins, but because there is no way for the protagonist to escape. I used to spend hours thinking ways I could have been smarter or better than the protagonist, but I always came up short. This feeling of loss of control over one's fate is true horror. Just like The Grudge and The Ring, Hereditary had me questioning how I could have tried to escape my fate better than Peter, Charlie, or the parents. Number 3. Male vulnerability in horror. I went to a horror convention last year, and even though I loved it, it was hard to stomach seeing so many terrified, screaming, and sometimes even mauled and bloodied female protagonists all over the posters and in the horror films being played. I once asked a friend on her opinion as to why females are always the main characters being terrorized in horror films instead of males. Her explanation was that audiences tend to empathize more with females in trouble than seeing males in trouble. This became extremely apparent when I was in the theater watching Hereditary, and many people in the audience laughed as Peter cried in his father's arms for asking his mother to stop talking like Charlie during the seance scene. Perhaps it was because I was doing some major research on male vulnerability for an upcoming webcomic where my main character is male, but I empathized with Peter immediately, and honestly I found it refreshing to see a male being the lead in a horror movie that came across as believable and not cheesy. We are all scared to be vulnerable, especially after loss. This fear of being vulnerable started early with Peter when he awoke to find his mother covering him and his sister in paint thinner, ready to light them on fire while she was sleepwalking. In fact, if it was not for this incident, Peter might have been able to turn to his mother more easily after the accident with Charlie. Instead, he laid in his bed, knowing and fearing that he'd have to face his mother eventually, only listening to her screams. The perfect execution of this was in large part due to the actor Alex Wolff himself and his amazing acting skills, as well as director Ari Aster playing out his vision and his storytelling skills. Number 4. Similarities in other entertainment. Warning, the next segment contains spoilers for the video game SOMA and the TV show Luke Cage Season 2. I think one of the most interesting things about the film Hereditary is how it stuck with me and had me reanalyzing other shows and movies that I've seen. After discovering that Paimon is depicted as a woman, but is male internally, I thought of one of my favorite horror games I played last year with my boyfriend called SOMA. This extremely awesome and underrated horror game is about a man named Simon whose consciousness is loaded into a cadaver of a beheaded female on an underwater vessel named Pathos. Later in the game, when Simon has to make a body switch, he must load another corpse into the machine, but it needs to cut the head off to do so. A similar idea to the one in Hereditary, where beheading is required for Paimon to possess human vessels. The other similarity between SOMA and Hereditary is the fact that the strange goo they created to help keep them alive aboard Pathos actually ends up only keeping them partially alive and uses them like puppets at times, much like how Paimon has a taste for arts and crafts by having Charlie and her mother make dolls. Another piece of entertainment that I watched recently that held remnants to the concept of Paimon was Season 2 of Luke Cage. Elements of dark magic are introduced with Tilda and Bushmaster, and he even leaves 3 severed heads in the grand opening of the Family First facility. It becomes apparent that Bushmaster's character is dynamic, and though he started out looking like a villain, we soon come to empathize with his cause. Vulnerability in Hereditary is hugely important because it's the idea that we let the devil get to us, and that's why we do bad things. You could say the same for Bushmaster, as the use of Nightshade should be killing him, but instead it keeps him alive. Have you noticed Paimon's touch in any of your favorite pieces of entertainment? If so, leave a comment below, and if you like this video, make sure to subscribe to see more speed painting videos and reviews. Thank you for watching.